Hey, so this will be my review of the CS-GR01 by Carbon Speed. This is what the bike looks like, which you will recognize as heavily inspired by an Italian brand that manufactures its bikes in China. The frame was sent to me by Peter from Carbon Speed for review. I did not pay for it. I also do not get paid for it. The history is that I have bought several wheel sets from Peter, and we've discussed a fair amount, and one thing leading to the other, he sent me this frame for review. In the last 2 years, I built 9 Chinese bikes, half of them gravel. I'm more of a roadie myself, and I am perfectly average as a cyclist. So, a few photos. Obviously you can pause the video to look at them more in detail, but this is the frame that I received in size 55. I asked for regular road bars in 38 by 80. I did not want flared bars, and because I don't like them. Then moving on, these are pictures taken directly at the factory. So obviously you can recognize the inspiration from the frame. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, has all of the signature features. We'll see the geometry, but basically the geometry is extremely similar. In terms of frame inspection, I am not an expert, but I don't have anything bad to report. Basically, it's EPS molded, so the inside is clean. The bottom bracket became pre-installed, so I did not remove it because I was able to route everything without doing that. The headset bearings fit without any problem, so there was, the tolerances were fine. I didn't have to file anything. Everything felt and looked well made. In terms of paint job, that's obviously a straight up black color, so there isn't much to write about. But I have, as kind of implied by the pictures, basically it looks good, and in real life it's just black paint, nothing to get excited. And that is it. So basically these are the pictures, and I have nothing to report on the frame tolerances and so on and so forth. Everything that I saw has been without any problem. I've only put 165 kilometers on the bike across 3 rides, the last one being a real gravel ride of about 4 hours on every possible terrain, so that was actually a really good test for the bike. So flat, up, down, asphalt, gravel, pebble, stone, sand, everything, mud, dry, wet. So really a good test and shakedown for the bike. It is built as follows, just to explain that the components on the bike are not going to be holding the bike back, basically. So the wheels are Far Sports, the tires are Terra Speed Continental setup tubeless. The group set is L2 electronic ER9. The crank is 5034. At the back I have 1136 with a small cage extender. I've mentioned the bars, which are 3880, just like regular integrated road cockpit. The saddle, not that it matters, is carbon 3D printed, and that basically covers it. So it is a setup that I am used to running on my other gravel bike. The wheels are great, the tires are super nice, they roll really fast, they wear out pretty quickly, but that's irrelevant here. The saddle, super comfortable. And that is it. The idea again is that as built, it's not going to be the components that are going to slow down the bike. Frame specs: the bike will take 50C. as well as 2.1 inch tires if you use mountain bike wheels in 650. So this would be the setup, for example, that Dylan Johnson used most recently. And the 50C is also the clearance on the latest gravel, which has been upgraded from 42C maximum previously. So with 50C, you have the latest standard, I guess I say, in terms of tire clearance. So you can ride pretty much anything. In terms of carbon used, it's a mix of T700 and 800. It is a foam molded frame, so the inside is very clean, and I guess you have fewer chances of having voids in the frame. Routing of the cables and housing is going to be easier because it's cleaner inside, and so on and so forth. Generally, that is just best practice, basically, as opposed to the traditional bladder that would be inflated inside and tended to result in like not as good finishes inside with more resin pooling and so on and so forth. So this is a foam molded frame. The bottom bracket is T47, so this is again current best practice, basically. Standard, so threaded T47 bottom bracket. The headset bearings are standard. Importantly and unusually, there should be a 3-year warranty on every frame, and this is a testament of Carbon Speed committing to quality, basically, and standing behind what they sell. So Europe typically has 2-year warranty, and the US only has 1 year. So in this instance, they want to offer a 3-year warranty. So it's worth pointing out. And in terms of weights, the frame, again in size large, 55, was measured at around 1235 grams in size large, in black. So the frame that you see, basically, that I'm riding, this is the weight. So it's a black weight, black paint weight. The fork weighs around 450 and the seat post around 185. I do not know what the Pinarello weights are, and that's it. Here's the geometry table. You can pause the video if you compare it to the frame that was the source of inspiration. You will notice that it is very similar, which we'll see on the next slide. So let's talk relative geometry without trying to make that into a masterclass for which I would not be qualified anyway. You can see the Carbon Speed has basically the same geometry as the bike it looked to emulate, with maybe the exception of the stack, but I wouldn't read anything into that because that's probably just a spacer difference. So basically the geometry is the same, at least in size 55. Then comparing to two other bikes that I have, the Velobil GF002 and the Longtang 268. Technically, I bought the Longtang because I was not happy with how the Velobil, the GF002, is a gravel bike. I was not happy how that was riding on the road, basically. It felt sluggish, I felt too high, and it's very nice as a gravel bike, but it just wasn't nice as a road bike. So I don't believe that this is a do-it-all bike, basically. So this is why I bought the Longtang, which is a relatively relaxed race bike, definitely not an endurance geometry, but it's also not the most aggressive geometry. And how does the Carbon Speed frame fit into this? Basically, and this is confirmed by the measurements there, basically compared to the Velobil gravel, The Carbon Speed is more like a road bike, basically. So it is a gravel bike, but it's, you know, the head angle and seat angles are steeper on the Carbon Speed. The chainstay is shorter. And those are probably gonna be the biggest differentiating elements in the geometry. And again, I don't I'm not qualified to make this into a geometry masterclass, but the general impression that I got from, again, very limited riding on the Carbon Speed is that I mean, I don't want to say it feels like a road bike because it is a gravel bike, but I would say it feels more snappier, lively, whatever you want to call it. Again, I won't go into froth and so on. I'm not gonna say that it holds its speed very well and blah blah blah, but it felt more lively, let's say closer to a road bike than the Velo Build, definitely. So if I had bought that last year, does that mean that I would have not felt the need for a traditional road bike? I don't know. I doubt it. That's beyond the scope of this conversation anyway. But these are comparables of bikes I've had, and obviously comparable with the bike that it looked to emulate. And this complete the first look at this bike with a clip of not me riding the bike. I like it. It is obviously early stage in the sense that I haven't put that many miles on it at all, but I have no reservation, basically, in the sense that the frame was built very well from what I've seen, looked clean inside. The tolerances were fine. I haven't had any creak in the bottom bracket and so on and so forth. Obviously, it's 165 kilometers of riding, so that would be pretty horrifying if it weren't the case. But I like the feeling of a lively gravel bike, and I hope that you will find this useful. Thank you.